Anyway, that's the workshop schedule for tomorrow. I'm going to take questions now. Any final questions, it can be about the craft of writing. I'll do my best to answer it. I'll stay on here for a bit to answer your questions. And make sure you do check out the YouTube channel at Jettle. And, we have the Instagram, TikTok, jettle.com are all of our best resources. They're on there. So, and we also have them for other subjects now as well. Modern history, legal studies, business studies, economics, amazing state rank resources on there that go through every possible question, sample answers, essay structures, practice essays, etc. You will find all of that on jettle.com. Questions, guys, I'll have a look at the chat. Otherwise, feel free to ask over the mic here. Otherwise, thank you so much. Just for any of you who have to go, thank you so much for being here. I hope that helped. I hope you got a lot out of that.
Could you go back to the life stimulus PowerPoint slide?
Yep, 1 second.
Thank you.
Yeah, guys, I'm not going to flick through every slide again just because I have to go through. And I'm not going to do that just yet. Do you have any tips for what to include in introductions to essays to make them more sophisticated? Thanks, Kelly. Pam, what to include in introductions? Yeah, make sure you refer to something specific about context. Make sure you refer to something specific about form. Give me 1 second. Make sure you refer to something specific about form. Make sure, like, what is it about the dramatic form if it's a play? I would even refer to things like what type of narrative voice is used, Pam, if you're like, depending on what your texts are, even focusing on like the use of first person narration, even like mentioning those in your intro, that's going to help. And also if you just have a really nice conceptual introduction for each of your body paragraph ideas there, then I think that's going to be really good. So introduce your body paragraph concepts. That's why you always start by looking at your topic sentences, because that makes the introduction easier, but then weave in something about context, weave in something about the form of the text. So again, like what the narrative voice is always a good one to have in there in the intro. That's going to help you stand out. And then the way you break down the key terms of the question in that expansive way by using mini questions, that's also going to help you stand out. So I'd say those are like some of the core elements there. Just be specific, guys. Whenever you are saying things, like I showed you with that Shakespeare explores power thing, that's not enough. Don't have any list in it. So Pam, to also answer your question, it's more about what you shouldn't do. And you shouldn't just list themes and name drop themes. Don't say the word theme, by the way, as well. You want to actually just say one concept. It should be one full sentence. Say how it's important, why it's important, what's the impact of it, rather than just listing off these buzzwords. So if you can avoid listing off buzzwords and just have one concrete concept to begin with, and one per sentence, and linking in context and form, you're going to have a really good intro. 4 sentences is a good kind of rough estimate for the introduction. Do I have any predictions for this year's HSC question formats? I don't know. I kind of don't like doing predictions because you really need to be ready for any type of question, which, is sorry to say, that's just how it is. You obviously can probably rule out a couple of things that have already been asked. Vashita, I'll come to your question in a second. You guys can probably rule out, like, for instance, in the craft of writing, they asked for an imaginative composition only a couple of years ago. So they're probably not just going to ask for an imaginative only again. They might do a discursive only. They might do a persuasive only, or they might do a discursive or persuasive. You might get an option out of those two. You still need to have the imaginative there just in case, but it's very unlikely. And again, I'm not saying it's impossible. It's very unlikely for the craft of writing that you will be forced to write an imaginative because they've already asked for that specifically. So maybe it looks more likely that they do it a discursive or persuasive. Maybe you get an option out of those two, or they choose one of them. They gave a choice last year. I don't know if they'll give a choice again of all three. Maybe they'll give a choice of two, discursive, imaginative, maybe. I just don't think they're going to ask for imaginative only. That's the only thing I can really say on that. I think stimulus-based questions are likely for Module B. I think for common module, you need to look at the rubric terms like anomalies, paradoxes, those kind of things, and practice essay questions with those terms in it. And I think that's the way to be prepared. Vashita, I've already done my trials. That's very early that you've done them. How can I start preparing for the HSC now? Well, first of all, you've got a long time now till the HSC. So I would make sure you give yourself a break, because if you start going hard now for the final HSC, you're going to burn out for sure. So you need to allow a few weeks before you really get into it. But what I would suggest doing over this holiday break is consolidating all of your notes and putting them all into a really practical format. So excluding English. So I'm talking about other subjects. Get all your notes together for those content-based subjects and make sure they're really in a neat way. They're in a neat format. And then you can slowly start practicing questions. But I think you've still got time to go before I would start doing that. So I would just make sure you've got notes on every single syllabus dot point for those content-based subjects. If you do mathematics, I would be doing, I wouldn't be like doing a ton of past papers right now because it's too early before the HSC and you'll burn out. So I would just be going back over textbook questions, consolidating my knowledge. I'm just consolidating these holidays. I'm making sure I've got all my drafts for English. So Vashita for English, make sure you're really happy with all of your drafts, that you have all these different kinds of questions that you're prepared for. Make all your module C variations, but don't be memorizing anything at this point or anything like that. You need to have a break as well if you've just had trials. So guys, after you have your trials, have a week or two off, and then you can ramp it back up, but don't go too hard too soon or you will burn out. Okay, what are the specific features of a persuasive piece which are distinct from discursive? Well, it's more high modal, Judah. So like, it's more certain, like you must do this, you should do this. It's always been the case. Versus perhaps low modality is more common in discursive. So that's a key distinguisher. Discursives are also more like stream of consciousness. So it, like the sentences are a little bit more fluid and it's kind of reflecting the thought process of the character. Whereas the persuasive is typically more structured and a little bit more certain. It's why it's high modality. Maybe you have shorter sentences for effect, for impact, so that you can play around with those kind of features. Gloria, for 8 marks, how many techniques? If you got an 8-mark question, you would just do that structure I showed you before, Gloria, with the 6 to 8 marker. You would do 2 body paragraphs, 3 pieces of evidence in each one. That's fine. Same as a 7 mark. Cool. In an essay, Brian, should macro, just give me 1 sec, guys. I'm going to answer these questions. Just wait 1 second. So next question, Brian says, yeah, should macro elements be addressed separately from quote technique effect sentences? Brian, that's a good question. They should be integrated in together with it. And in the introduction, you should flag some of those key macro elements like dramatic form, soliloquies, and stuff like that. You could have those things separately in the introduction. You could potentially flag them in your topic sentences. If the question was about form or storytelling, it might be worth having one per topic sentence, having a key feature like that. But ultimately, Brian, with your sentences, you want to have them integrated into the same sentence. So that's why you have a sentence like facilitated by or reinforced by the visceral impact of the dramatic form. The metaphor does this. It's all part of the one sentence. So you just have this clause at the beginning. So you say something about form, then do a comma, and then go into your more micro technique. So it's the same sentence, ideally. Brian, if that makes sense. You might have to split it over 2 sentences if it's a bit longer. But otherwise, that is it for that. Guys, any other questions? Does writing with batteries on your pen make a significant difference in speed of your writing? Probably a little bit. I never did that myself, to be honest. I think, that's, if you're focusing on, writing speed by doing the battery thing, I mean, I suppose that's kind of a good sign because you're talking about some marginal improvements. Maybe that saves you a couple of minutes. That'll improve by a couple of minutes. I honestly don't know the science on it. I know that a lot of people used to do it. I know some people who said it really helped and others probably didn't help as much. I would say just practicing writing itself, whether you have an extra weight on the pen or pencil, just practicing writing out a lot of responses is going to be really important. It's more important than ever because you guys as students type everything up these days, right? Most students do everything on the laptops. So you're just not well practiced at actually writing, right? Whereas even when I was at school, it's probably a lot more balanced. And I wasn't using my laptop for absolutely everything, at least for some of the years that I was at school. So if you're out of practice with handwriting, then you should be doing a lot of that now. Don't leave that for a week before to get good at it. You'll get like hand cramps and it will be hard for you. So you need to start really kind of adapting your hands to that process of writing a lot of words. So writing out handwritten responses during these holidays as part of that memorization process, and just practicing doing those new questions, that's going to be really helpful for you there. If you want to, tape a couple of batteries to the pen or pencil to give you that little bit of a marginal improvement, then by all means go for it. I don't think it's a big deal either way.
Are you running another workshop before HSC, or is this it?
Before the final HSC, I will run another workshop. And by the way, anyone who's coming to the set of workshops from tomorrow through to Friday, as you can see the schedule there, anyone who's coming to that is basically, there's like a little surprise there, but you will get access to one of those final workshops we do. So you'll secure a spot into that one if you're coming to one of our workshops between tomorrow and Friday. Because anyone from English Standard or Advanced can come tomorrow for comprehension and craft of writing, anyone, no matter what you're doing. So if you come to that, or anyone comes to anything else, you'll secure a spot for one of the ones we're doing before the final HSC, where we'll help you actually implement feedback from trials and make those improvements to your essays. So that's going to be super useful. Judah, would you ever be required to reflect upon 2 prescribed texts in Mod C? Maybe. I can't say never to that. Definitely never 3, because teachers are only required to look at 2. It's a minimum of 2. So it is possible, but not likely. Not likely, but possible. You can play around with a question that says, like, using a character from one text, and a setting from another text, like, do this. But I think that's really unlikely. I would just focus more on the stylistic elements of one prescribed text for Module C. Yes, Gloria, the reflection statement is only for Module C. You may not even have to do a reflection if you get a 20-mark question, which has happened before, where you get 20 marks for the composition. Any other questions, guys? You can speak up now or put it in the chat. Thank you, Cami. Thanks, everyone. Hope to see some of you soon. Hey, I hope to see you guys in the next few days. I'll wrap up there. But yeah, as I said, if you want to sign up, go to hsc.eventbrite.com. Next 5 days, going to be fun. And small group, really intensive, one-on-one feedback. Let's perfect your essays together. Let's get you set up for these sections. Really looking forward to it. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for coming in. I hope this helped. See you guys soon. Stay in touch. You've got my email. And as I said, for anyone who signs up in the next few days for this week's workshop, special entry into one of our pre-HSC workshops, where you get feedback. Yeah, I'll quickly show you as well this one. So just remember that when you're interpreting a stimulus for the craft of writing, you don't want to just interpret things literally. You want to interpret things figuratively as well. Like if you've got a setting of an ocean, you need to think about how maybe an idea is being drowned out of society. But it doesn't mean that your piece has to literally be set in the ocean. So you've got to use the concepts from the image or the quote in a figurative way as well to make your draft piece work. So you don't need to feel like you need to abandon your material because you get a setting that seemingly doesn't work, because maybe you're just not interpreting the question the right way. If it's a setting, maybe it's a mental setting. That's what internalize means. So it's an internal setting. So the ocean represents, it's a metaphor for the characters or protagonists, right? Headspace. So up in their head, they feel like they're drowning in an ocean. They're overwhelmed with thoughts, right? You can kind of frame it that way, and that way it doesn't have to limit you and you can still use it. Externalize means if you get given a quote, maybe it's what someone else said. It's not what your character said, it's what someone else said, which allows you to maintain a lot more of your piece. So to make the stimulus something external, like if it's an image on a television screen that your character sees. Now it's not part of their setting, it's external to them. And that allows you to do a lot more with your original piece. For English Advanced, is it possible to get a Mod C where we have to continue and open into a piece? Yeah, you can get a Module C where you have to continue on from something else. But again, even if it says continue on, you've got your draft composition. So you're just thinking, how can I interpret that in a way that allows me to transition into what I really wanted to say. You might still have to change a lot of it and compromise and sacrifice pieces of your original, but at least if you can think creatively about different ways of interpreting what they gave you, that's going to open up the doors to using more of your original, which is going to be more polished and sophisticated because you've had time to draft that. All right. Unless there's anything else, guys, I'm going to let you guys go. Appreciate it, Kush. Hope to see you soon. Hope to see you guys later this week.